Hello and welcome to the very first episode of our Hull City Australia podcast, where the Tigers down under, and we're here to chat all things Hull City. So with me today I've got Mitch.
Hey, how's going?
So have you found the start of the season, Mitch? Have you found the return to the championship and how the side's kind of settled back into it?
Yeah, good so far. Obviously, sitting nice in the table. Wasn't sure how we'd go. There were goods and bads looking into it, I guess. Thought we were going to lose a lot more than we did, so keeping hold of players probably helped us a lot, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of crucial over the summer because I know at the start of the summer we were a bit nervous that a lot of the players might have been sold and there wasn't a whole lot of talk about players coming in for the first month or so. And then I think it was Ndoye who got sold, and then that kind of got the ball rolling, and we got Clucas and Taylor coming in. Um, who was your favourite signing of the lot to sign in the summer?
I think it's got to be Sam Clucas. I think.
Yeah.
I didn't really know, or I hadn't heard of him before we signed him, but I didn't know what to expect. I didn't have high expectations, obviously, because I hadn't heard of him. But he's come in and he's killed it, and all his goals have been pretty crucial for us.
Yeah, I remember. I was the same as you. I remember we signed him and Ryan Taylor on the same day, and I thought it was a bit telling that both our signings are pretty kind of. Taylor had struggled for a few years with injuries at Newcastle, and then Clucas was this unknown kid from League One, and I thought,
Mm.
geez, okay, we're kind of getting a bit desperate here. But no, he's looked awesome, and he's scored 5 goals already for the season, and
Yeah,
I think Bruce has kind of said he's the first name on the team sheet sometimes because he's just such a gut runner, and he just covers the pitch so well.
yeah, yeah.
Who would you say out of the players that we managed to hold on to has been the most significant for us? I know, for instance, Hernandez has scored a lot of goals for us. McGregor's done quite well in goals. Diami's looked pretty good in patches. Livermore's looked great as well since his return. So who would you say is the most important?
It's got to be a Bell. I think. Without his goals, we wouldn't be anywhere near where we are now. I thought we'd struggle without a striker when Jelavic and Ndoye both left, but Abel come good and justified his price tag and looking good.
I mean, I got the sense when he was with us in the Premier League last season that if we kept hold of him and we had a second season out of him, he'd certainly look a lot better because he just needed a bit of time to adapt to
Yeah.
England. So I think it's great to see he's kind of found his feet now. And have you noticed? I mean, there was an article the other day with him getting quoted about his goals target and stuff. He's getting interviewed a lot more. I think his English is really sort of coming on.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's helped too, with the chemistry, I guess.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize that Mo Diami speaks Spanish. So apparently those two
Huh.
have been able to communicate pretty well in the forward line. So that's one of the
Oh,
reasons
yeah,
Bruce
that
plays him up
explains
top.
it.
Yeah, so that could be part of it. Now I just wanted to ask you what your favourite fixture of the season was so far, and I can probably guess the answer, but
Ooh.
what was your favourite game?
Oh, that's tough. Um, Probably. Well, I won a little bit of money on the 6-0 win, so that was pretty nice.
Well, I was going to say, I
um,
mean that 6-0 win's pretty spectacular, but there've been a
yeah.
few other good ones as well. So yeah, if you had another one.
Um, Probably either of the 3-0s, I guess, against Middlesbrough or Burnley. Um, Maybe Burnley just because I really didn't think we'd do any good. Like a record of TV games and a record against Burnley, and I don't know, it really surprised me. And yeah,
Yeah, I'm probably the same. I mean, the 6-0 against Charlton really stands out because we'd kind of had that sense for a while that a big win was coming because we kind of needed to really crush a side, and after we scored a few goals pretty early in that one, it looked pretty comfortable. And Hernandez getting his first hat trick was pretty awesome. But yeah, absolutely, the wins against Borough and Burnley were pretty huge, and especially Burnley, who we're usually pretty terrible against,
yeah,
was a pretty good result. It's gonna be a big game when we go and play Borough away, especially given the fact that we beat them so convincingly at home.
hmm
Um, the other one I quite liked was even just on the opening day against Huddersfield 2-0, where both Clucas and Akpom scored their first goals for the club, and it was good to see the new signings settling in early.
yeah. It kind of gave us a good layout for the season, I guess. as I said, I didn't know how we're gonna go, but it kind of put me in a positive mindset, I guess, and gave me faith in the new signings.
And just on him, how have you found Akpom's season with us? I mean, we were kind of on his bandwagon pretty early, and he scored a couple of goals for us and looked pretty much the goods. But he's obviously had a few attitude issues that Bruce has kind of made us aware of, and he's been sat down on the bench a fair bit. So, how have you found him in his time with us?
Pretty hot and cold, I guess. He's had his really good strong points. Obviously, the hat trick in the cup was probably the highlight. But I guess he's only 19, and so you kind of expect that kind of stuff with the attitude.
Yeah.
Like he's not going to be the complete package just yet, but I think obviously that's why Arsenal sent him out on loan to us, and so he'll learn that, and then yeah, hopefully I think second half of the season is going to be better than his first.
And then it's kind of interesting because obviously they sent us two loanees. They also sent us Isaac Hayden. Um, at the start of the season, you probably would have expected Akpom to have the bigger impact on loan with us because we had a lot of
Mm.
centre mids. But Hayden's kind of emerged in the last month or so as a really decent player for us. So, and Bruce even saying that he wouldn't mind signing him on a permanent. So, how have you found Hayden's season?
Yeah, well, when he wasn't playing for us, I was like when he was sitting on the bench, I was a bit disappointed because when I'd watched him and when I'd seen him, I thought he'd been one of our better players. But then, was it the cup match that put
Again, was
in?
the one against City, you mean?
I'm
Or
not sure. I'm not sure, but I don't know what it was. But when he came back into contention for the first team, then I think that might have been around the time that Myler had a kid as well,
yeah.
maybe. And so that and he started playing more and really cemented his spot. He's been crucial. Been good.
Yeah, and just on Myler having a kid, he also signed a new contract around the same time, and we've had Myler and McGregor both sign new deals. Of the remaining players out of contract, we've got Davies, Akpom, Huddleston, and was there someone else who's also out of contract? El Mohammadi as well. Which of those would you be most keen to sign up?
Probably Davies. Probably. Just I don't know. I just think him and Dawson, even though last year they weren't super flash together when they played, but this year they've been very good. And I just think he brings a whole lot of leadership. I guess obviously captained us for a lot of the time. And I guess we got Maguire there too. So Davies isn't that crucial, but I still think he's an important one to re-sign if of all of them.
And the other interesting one, which I mean, I even forgot he was out of contract, but El Mohammadi's really had a bit of a fall from grace in recent months because he's just not looked himself this season. I think Bruce has said his head was turned a little bit in the summer, but
Yeah.
I think that's kind of also coincided with Snodgrass coming back into the side and looking pretty flash. So, how have you seen Elmo's season and whether he has a place with us next season?
Yeah, well, he was crucial to us when we are in the Premier League. I think he put in the most crosses in his first season, like in the whole league or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So, but yeah, since then he's not been himself. Yeah, as you said, Bruce said he had his head turned with all the rumours in the summer, but yeah, I think Snodgrass has come in and filled the void perfectly. So I don't know if he'll re-sign or not. If a good money offer comes in, especially from the Premier League, like there's always rumours about Everton and him, and so uh, I don't know.
And then the final one obviously was Tom Huddleston, who's had a bit of an interesting time at City. I mean, he looked such a good player in his first season with us, and right up until that game against Fulham, where he got his hair cut, and he played an amazing game that day. But ever since then, he's had flashes here and there. He looked pretty good in the cup against, I think it was at Sheffield United. He scored that goal.
Mhm.
Um, but apart from that, he's not looked that great for us. So,
No.
what's your take on him and his future with the club?
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna last much longer. He's not having the impact that he used to have. He's not. I don't know. I think our midfield right now we've got a lot of quality midfielders, so I think he's just gonna slowly get edged out further and further. So hopefully we can sell him for a bit of money. Before oh wait, when's his contract up?
I think it's in the summer, so yeah, we would go for nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we'll re-sign him.
It's amazing to think when we were first linked to him. I remember being so excited that this Spurs
Yeah,
player was potentially coming to Hull, and I remember staying up late, refreshing the updates, getting the news that he was
yeah,
signing for the club. To think that it's been what 2 years since then, and we were actively annoyed that he was brought on as a sub against Burnley when we were
yeah,
chasing the game. To think in 2 years that's how far he's fallen from grace is just amazing to think.
yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Um, and then we should talk because the point of these podcasts we're going to try and do once a month to sort of round up the month because obviously being here in Australia it's quite hard to watch the games week in week out. We only get the occasional televised game, and the rest of the time we focus on Twitter, so it's hard to do a week by week summary of the games. But we've just had a pretty fantastic month in January where we went through undefeated in all competitions. Starting with the 2-1 win away to QPR and finishing up with a 1-0 win against Fulham. How did you find the month? And obviously, Steve Bruce and Abel Hernandez getting Manager of the Month and Player of the Month.
Perfect. Couldn't be any happier. Especially to be without Dawson for all that as well. So we've done really well.
I think we only conceded 2 goals.
Wow, wow. Well, that's exactly right. Without our captain and
Yeah,
arguably our best player, well, defensively he probably is, but yeah, that's crazy, and that's kind of what I expect where we should be, I guess.
I think in those games we only had the Fulham game as the televised game, so I think you would have watched most of that. I have to admit, I kind of fell asleep towards the end, not because the game was boring, just because it was a very late night. But um, Fulham played pretty well in the first half, and I guess that's sort of typical of our away performances throughout the whole season, where we seem to kind of sit back and let them dictate play, and then we try and hit them on the counter, or we try and hit them with the odd goal late on, which against Fulham it did work, but obviously Burnley managed to get the win against us. How did you see the game against Fulham?
Um, who scored in that? Just to
It was the Hernandez penalty. I think it was like the 80th.
right, yeah, okay.
Odebajo got a good block off the line in the first half as well, I think.
Hmm. Well, I guess any away win for us is a good win. Um, but yeah, I don't know. We did enough to get the 3 points, I guess. So, um, yeah, I don't know. Every time we're on the road, I'm not really super confident. But I guess when we're playing Fulham, who aren't overly impressive, we should be getting the 3 points. So I'll take it.
The only other away game we had in the month was against QPR, and we won that with a very very late goal from Diomande. I think was it actually in stoppage time?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it
And
was.
that game was televised as well, actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
So how did you see that one?
lucky. That was the flukiest goal ever.
So the,
Um,
the keeper kind of pushed it out onto his boot, didn't he? He didn't know anything
yeah,
about it.
I don't think he actually had a swing at the ball. I think it was just
Yeah.
like deflected off his leg and went in.
Yeah.
But oh well, we'll
They all
take that
count.
one too.
They all count, yeah. Um, and then we obviously had the home wins against Cardiff 2-0 and Charlton 6-0. I think Hernandez actually scored in something like 5 games in a row for us over January and the end of December. So he's been in some pretty impressive form this season. The other player who kind of stood out to me in that month was Harry Maguire, who you mentioned before, who's really sort of stepped up to the plate when Dawson's been injured. And I think it was that QPR game where he had a tackle where he took out 2 of their players with the one tackle,
Yeah, that
which
was
was
crazy.
which was bloody brilliant from him. So, how have you seen his season?
Well, when we watched him last year, we always discussed how good he was, and we all rated him. But now that he's had a chance to properly play in the first team, he's really stood up and he's filled in for Dawson perfectly. He kind of reminds me a little bit of John Stones in the way that
Yeah,
he gets forward, but I think he's also a little bit better defensively than John Stones because he's rubbish defensively.
yeah,
So yeah, I think he's got a massive future. I wouldn't be surprised if a big club picked it. How is he only young?
yeah. He's only 22 or 23, I think.
And there you go. Yeah, who knows? Maybe in the future he could get picked up by a bigger Premier League club. But for now, he's killing it for us. Happy
Yeah.
days.
One thing that strikes me about him is that his ability to play the ball off the ground. His passing range is just phenomenal. And I
Hmm.
can't remember who it was. It might have been Burnley, I think. I think it was for the Clucas goal right at the end. Maguire played this amazing long ball and just hit. I think he hit Robertson on the chest with it or something. And he's done it a number of times. I think against Reading as well, where he just his long balls and his passes on the ground and everything. He gets so much accuracy with them.
Yep. Dawson does the same thing, which
Yeah,
is why it's been a
yeah,
perfect feeling for him.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but yeah, to have that ability to create attacking chances from the back is massive for us, and to be so precise with it as well is unreal.
And so obviously after that perfect month, we did have a bit of a dip just last weekend against Burnley. Somewhat predictable, I suppose, that we went down 1-0. Some debate about whether it was a McGregor error or whether it was more just, a bit unlucky. That in a way, it was very similar to the Diamande goal against QPR, where the keeper just sort of parried it to the striker. But um, obviously, we weren't able to watch it down here in Australia. But from the sounds of things, Fernandez had a few decent chances. They had a few chances, and they just ended up being the ones to win the game. So, what did you make of the result?
Well, a draw would have been pretty nice. I would have taken. I think I would have taken a draw before away against Burnley. But yeah, I don't know. That's what we get with away games, I guess, for us. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I don't really know.
Yeah, fair enough. So it seems to be a common theme though that away from home we're not as confident going forward as we are at home. So do
Mm.
you think Bruce needs to change that up, or are you sort of happy enough with? I mean, we're sitting in second, so we can't really be too critical about how we're going. But do you see it as something that could kind of unravel as the season goes on?
Um, Possibly. I think maybe change up. I don't know. It's hard to say where to change up because everyone's performed pretty well generally. But I don't know what he was thinking with his substitutions in that game. But
Yeah,
maybe he's got to fix that before anything else. Maybe that. See, like, who did he bring on
he
again?
he brought on what was it, Akpom and Aluko for Diami and Hernandez, and then he brought on Huddleston for Livermore later on.
Hmm. See, I think he had to play Akpom after the cup.
Yeah.
I think he would have been too pressured not to play him. But yeah, I don't know.
Sure. I mean, I
Maybe.
would have I would have thought Akpom on for Diami, who, from all reports, didn't have a great game. But surely you leave Hernandez on.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's
He's
our
been banging
most
him in
dangerous
for
player.
fun.
Yeah, exactly. So we get a chance to redeem ourselves this week with, well, tonight in fact, with an away game at Blackburn where we haven't won since,
Yeah.
was it 1987? I think was the stat,
Uh,
something like that. I think you found that the other day.
yeah.
Something
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 like
like
that.
that. Yeah. So it's been a fair while between drinks for us.
Oh no, 68 it was. It was 50 years.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Jeez. So do you see us having much of a chance tonight then?
Um, I don't know. Blackburn have been pretty rubbish this season,
Yeah,
especially without Rhodes, and it was 1-1 last time,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I think Rhodes scored the
Yeah.
equaliser last time. Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, again, it's hard to say with us being away from home. It's such a big factor, but I think we can take all three. To be honest.
yeah. I'd be backing us in to take all three. I mean, it's like you say, it's hard to call because we go to somewhere like Preston or Rotherham, and you think, oh, we should be taking 3 points there, and we lose the games, but you can't change your expectations just because of that. So you'd have to
Mm,
hope that we can, get two or three past them. And obviously they got a decent draw with Borough last week or whenever it was, but Borough are kind of going through a bit of a dip at the moment anyway.
yeah,
We'll chat about them in a little bit, but Blackburn, yeah, bit of an upturn in form, but hopefully we still have enough to deal with them.
I think.
Would you make any changes to the starting 11?
Um,
Maybe Akpom, I think like you were saying.
possibly. Who who would come out if Akpom would come in?
It'd have to be pretty much Diami, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you'd say so. Yeah, maybe because I guess if Diame didn't perform last week and Akpom's been impressive when he has played, I guess he has to play, doesn't he?
But besides that, I mean, everyone else seems to be playing pretty well, so you can't really
Yeah,
drop anyone else.
yeah, that's correct. Who started at centre back for us in the last league game?
Dawson and Davies, but that was because Maguire was apparently injured in training, which I mean, call me a cynic, but I find it very hard to believe that the week that Dawson's available and the week that Bruce will have this hard decision to make about which centre back to start, Maguire magically gets injured. I mean,
Pretty
it
coincidental.
seemed a little bit coincidental to me. But by all reports, he's fit and firing again this week. So I think we've actually got a completely fit squad for the first time since I don't even know. Um, so yeah, so it was Dawson and Davies last week.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think we could change much apart from Diame, but Diame's been working well with Hernandez, so it's even hard to drop him.
Yeah, yeah. It'll be interesting to see what Bruce does, and that's what we've got to look forward to tonight. But after that, we've got a week of build up to one of our favourite fixtures because they seem to come around every year pretty much, which is Arsenal in the FA Cup. We had them in the third round, obviously, last year. We had them in the final the year before, which no one
But
needs
don't
reminding
mention
of.
it.
Well, I was going to ask you just one question about that final, and that was because my memory after about the 15th minute is just blank, so we can forget about that. But up until that 15-minute mark, what was your? Because I went and watched the game with you at Cheers. What was your feel of the night up until that 15-minute mark?
That was probably the best 15 minutes of my life, to be honest. Um, yeah, I don't think I could explain how it felt. It was disbelief, and just to see so many Hull fans, like I didn't think there were so many in Australia, but then everyone was there, everyone was going nuts. We're up 2-0, it was perfect, and the other 75 minutes didn't happen.
Exactly right. Yeah, I mean that's you've said it perfectly because I mean that was the big standout for the night for me. It was even before the game started, it was just walking into the city, walking down the main street of Sydney, and getting to the pub, and there being four or five City fans standing at the front, and you walk inside, and we had the flag up, we had
Yeah.
20, 30, 40, I don't know how many it was, City fans inside. The pictures are all up on our Twitter accounts, so people can check those out. But it was just an unbelievable night, and as you say, the first 10 minutes or 15 minutes of the game were just incredible. I mean, you go into a game like that thinking we've got a chance because we're here on the day, we can do it, but then it's something else to actually score those two goals.
Yeah.
So it was an incredible start to the night, and yeah, like you say, the rest didn't happen. But we've got our chance against them again next weekend, and that's also televised. So I encourage anyone listening in who's living in Sydney to try and get along to Cheers on George Street at 11:45 p.m. on that Saturday night because we'll be there in force. We'll have our flag there. We'll have all the colours there, and we'll be cheering the boys on. So it'd be good to get some numbers down there. But we've generally rotated in the cups this season, and do you think we'll do the same again against Arsenal, or do you think we should take it seriously and really, play the first team and really give it a go?
Well, if it were up to me, I would change everyone again, just
Yep,
because I'd rather promotion than a
yep,
cup run. I think. But in saying that, I would love to win. If we could change, because our cup team's obviously done the job so far.
yep.
Um,
And hey, look,
and,
they beat Swansea and they beat that mob who are coming first in the Premier League, so they're doing something
exactly,
right.
exactly. And then we've got a new keeper to come in, so that takes out Jakubovic, even though he's not been that bad, but we know he can be.
Yep.
So I guess,
I wouldn't
and I,
mind giving Kuchak a go.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So that he should come in. I think.
yeah.
I think he'll play. And I think I forget his name. Powell.
Pal,
Powell.
yeah, yeah.
I think he'll play in that as well. So it'll be a good chance to see him go.
Absolutely, it'll be a very interesting game, and I think you're right. I mean, there's nothing that says that we can't play a second string side and hope for the win. I mean, I don't think automatically playing a second string side means you don't want to win. It just means you're giving these other blokes a go.
Exactly.
And they didn't do like the scoreline against Man City didn't really reflect the quality of the game. I mean, apart from Akpom and Aluko not really communicating, it would have been 0-0 at half time. It was
Yeah.
just that one passage of play where they kind of both thought the other was taking the ball and then City scored, but Man City scored that is. But apart from that, we were kind of doing pretty well against them, and then obviously beat Swansea and Leicester in the cup already.
Yeah,
So you can't really fault those players from having another go at it. And the second string isn't that weak. I mean, you've still got guys like
exactly.
Myler and Huddleston and Maguire and El Mohammadi will probably play. Um, the other
And
one,
that's the majority of our first team from the last 2 seasons.
exactly.
Like when you're mentioning those names.
Yeah, exactly right. And like Diamande might get a go up front as well. So
Yep.
it's a relatively strong side. I can't think of a side in the championship or even probably the bottom third of the Premier League that has a better second string side than us.
No,
Where you
that's
could make
that's
11
definitely
changes
true.
to the side and still have such a strong side, strong
Yeah,
team.
yeah, exactly. And I don't think Arsenal have been in the best form. Obviously, they had a good win over
Yeah,
Bournemouth, but their form coming into it isn't all impressive. So hopefully, we can cause an upset.
they've got Barcelona midweek the following week, so they might even look to rest a few players.
Yeah.
I think they've said Welbeck's going to get his return against us. So if you want to speak about games that have won you a bit of money, Welbeck scoring that late equaliser against us last season did all right. But it'll certainly be an interesting one, and they've obviously got Leicester on Sunday night as well. So hopefully that game sort of runs them ragged a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, the rest of the games upcoming for the month are pretty interesting as well. We've got Ipswich away from home and then Sheffield Wednesday at home. And I believe the Sheffield Wednesday game is televised, which should be a great one to look forward to. But those two sides have really, I wouldn't say come from nowhere, but they've had very good seasons, and I wouldn't be surprised if they both ended up in the playoff places at the end of the season. So, um, what are your hopes for those two games?
Well, yeah, obviously massive games for us to play two sides in decent form who are what are they coming? Oh, they're coming around the fringe of the playoff area,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah. Away from home, it's going
against
to be tough
Ipswich, yeah.
again. Sorry.
Against Ipswich away from home, yeah.
Yeah.
So Ipswich are in seventh at the moment, and Sheffield Wednesday are in sixth.
Okay. Uh, uh, we're still. I still have high expectation for us because I think we are the best team in the division. So I think every game. I think it was Davies who said it earlier in the year. They want 3 points.
That was a great
So
interview with him. That was
yeah,
spot on because he was so honest in that, but it wasn't arrogance because it was just honesty that we have
yeah,
such a good squad, we need to be going for 3 points in each game.
yeah. And so I, I I don't think I'd be happy with a draw. I guess it depends on the other results, particularly Middlesbrough and Burnley. I guess, but I'd obviously rather three, but
Yeah,
at home I think we should take three against anyone.
yeah,
Uh, that's not going to change no matter who we're playing. 3 points at home, but away it's a little bit more of a struggle. But I think 3 points would be the only thing that would really please me. I guess.
fair enough. Then the only other thing to discuss before we sign off is we should talk about the fortunes of the sides around us because it's been an interesting few weeks lately with Middlesbrough and Derby in particular starting to struggle a little bit. Obviously, Borough are still in first, but they haven't won in 4 games and they've picked up a very, very late point against MK Dons during the week. And then obviously Derby have sacked their manager because apparently he was too focused on promotion,
I
which
couldn't believe
wasn't
that.
their, which isn't their aim apparently this season. So, what are your takes on those two sides and their fortunes lately?
Oh, I was in disbelief when I heard that he got sacked. It's
Especially for
funny.
that reason, especially because he was too short term focused, you know?
Oh, ridiculous. Um, well, yeah, they've obviously not played too well, but I guess we had that patch as well that we
Yeah,
went through earlier in the season where we couldn't win a few games, but we came out of that, and so I don't know. I think we have to get as many points as we can while they're down because I do think they'll come back.
yeah.
Um, hopefully, how long until we play Middlesbrough?
Ah, that's a good question. I think it's in March from
Uh,
memory. I think I had a look at that before, and I think it's towards the end of March. From
uh,
that picture I tweeted out yesterday. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, okay. So I don't think their poor form's going to last that long, but hopefully it's a long one. But yeah, they've not been overly impressive. Apart unlike Burnley, who have
Yeah,
who have really come good lately.
I was gonna mention Burnley, probably the side apart from us who've really sort of been pretty consistent for most of the season. I know we had a small down patch, and our away form's been pretty consistently poor, but um, us and Burnley have probably been the two most consistent sides, apart from Borough, whose kind of defensive records kind of pulled them through in a lot of games. And obviously the other one's Brighton, who had a brilliant start to the season, but then had a big drop and now are back on the way up.
Mm. Um, yeah, that's interesting. I was waiting for Brighton to fall. I think everyone knew that they'd fall eventually, but I don't know. They're still going to run, and obviously they've still got Wilson, who we know can produce.
Yep.
So I don't know. I don't think they're good enough for automatic promotion. But I think like Ipswich and Wednesday they'll be fringe playoffs. I don't know which one's actually going to make the playoffs, but I think they'll be in or around it come season's end.
Fair enough. So then just before we sign off, who's your tip for going up in the automatic spots along with us?
I think it has to be Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
I think. And gonna s- I'm gonna say Derby are gonna choke again and not get through via playoffs, especially after second the manager. Maybe I'll go roughy and I'll say Ipswich will come
Oh,
up
okay.
first.
Yep. I would, yeah. I mean, if I'm going to pick a side for to win the playoffs, I'd go with someone like a Sheffield Wednesday because I think you're thinking about it the right way. Because I think we've found in seasons where those sides challenging for the top two, when it comes to the playoffs, if they haven't made the top two, they just don't have that energy to keep going, and they
Yeah,
sort of drop off. So I think the sides that surge into the playoffs from like seventh or eighth, like an
yeah,
Ipswich or a Sheffield Wednesday, they're the ones who generally have a pretty good chance. So yeah, I might back Sheffield Wednesday to go up in the playoffs, and yeah, it's a toss of the coin between Burnley and Borough, I think, for the automatic
yeah,
spots.
yeah.
So
That's true.
yeah, it'll be very interesting. Well, thanks very much for joining me for the first episode.
Thanks for having me.
No problem, and thanks to everyone who's listened in. We'll probably be back in about a month's time to cover the month that's been for us, the FA Cup. Hopefully, win against Arsenal and other games like that. So until then, hopefully, I'll see you guys posting in the group, and hopefully Hull keeps winning. So cheers, guys. See you next time.
With a burning desire, tigers are roaring and destiny's calling, 'cause now is the time.